Good evening, everyone. Let's see. Hybrid, welcome. It's like I just talked to you. Irish Connection, welcome. Who else we got? Who else we got? Gonna be good stuff. I spy with my little eye, or whatever the damn phrase is. Where's Blame Tag? He's supposed to be here. Hey, Hybrid, I'm excited about your retail refuge thing. I think that's gonna be cool. All right, so there he is. Hey, Blame Tag. It's like I just talked to you. It's weird how that works. All right, so we wanted April to be servers month, but only had two brave souls volunteer. I thought I had a third, and they never recontacted me. So tonight we have the Seething Server with us, all the way from the other side of the country, not the other side, not California, a little bit closer to the east. But so welcome, Seething Server.
Thank
So
you.
tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in this wonderful business, and a few of the different places you may have worked, and from there the chaos will ensue. The floor is yours.
All right. Well, let's see. I worked in retail my entire adult life. I would say 10 to 12 years have been in restaurants. And I've done a little bit of everything. I've been in big restaurant chains, I've been in casinos, I've done the small business thing. Currently, I'm at a little bakery slash cafe. And it's in one of the more affluent parts of town that I affectionately refer to as Karen Central.
Ooh,
So that's my current state.
wow. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this out of the way, since obviously you've been in the serving business for a while. We've been having a discussion. Blame Tag is doing the Lord's work trying to find out about Sunday crowds. So,
Hmm.
can you tell us a little bit and confirm that the after church crowd is the worst crowd?
They I can confirm, yes, they are the worst. Yeah. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're trying to stack up some sins that they can cleanse for the next Sunday or what the deal is, but yes, they come in all dressed up and they are just terrible to us. And I don't know what the correlation is, but yeah, definitely can confirm that.
Nice. So, I want to talk a little bit with you about the pay. Now, it's my understand. I know in some situations, it's what 213 an hour plus tips. Correct.
Hmm.
All right.
Yes.
But depending on, there are a lot of servers out there that make bank depending on where you're at.
Hmm.
Kind of walk us through your highs and lows. Like, where was the best? I'd love to hear about the casino. I'm sure that was a fantastic time. And what was the worst?
Let's see. The worst, if I can name names, well, I won't name names. I did work at a sushi restaurant that was pretty awful because the chefs got almost all of our tips.
Whoa.
Yeah, we made minimum wage. Of course, your tips are accounted for in taxes, but the sushi chefs got most of our tips, which was pretty painful because they didn't tell me that until I was there for a few days and had already kind of committed to things. So that was the worst. Probably the best. Hmm. Kind of depends, but I would say sometimes the big chain restaurants are okay. Just because everybody knows them and everybody knows to show up to them. Um, the casino world, one never knows, because a lot of times people are traveling from places where they don't know to tip, which is kind of crazy to think about. But if you get people from like either coast, West Coast or East Coast, they know to tip. They know 20% is the standard. But if you get people from, I would say, like the Midwest, a lot of times they'll just kind of leave you a couple bucks on like a $60-$70 check because that's just what they do. I found geography plays a big part in that.
What about foreigners? Like, people that aren't native to the United States, do they tip or do they not?
It kind of depends. Again, geography. It depends on where they're from. A lot of Europeans don't tip because over there it's included in their check, and they don't always know that that's not included here. Um, I haven't had too many problems with people coming in from out of the country, I have to say, except for, like I said, just a handful of Europeans who maybe didn't know that tips weren't included.
Okay, here's a good question. What's the biggest tip you've ever got?
$100.
That's pretty damn good.
That was pretty good. That was a good day for me. Yeah.
That,
Yeah. Yeah. I guess there was some kind of, I don't know. The chef at the restaurant I was working on recognized whoever was at my table as somebody that was part of some kind of group he was in. He comped his meal, and I was given a $100 tip. So it worked out well. But that's the biggest.
Being where you're located, have you ever waited
Mm-hmm.
on a celebrity?
Yes.
Ooh, can you name names?
Sure. They were lovely people, so I'll go ahead. Loretta Devine came in a couple of times, and she was very sweet. We, being closer to the Bay Area, we've gotten a couple of people from the Giants organization. Very nice people. Probably won't name them because I know a couple of them don't want people to know that they frequent Northern Nevada and not so much the Bay Area.
Right.
But yeah, nice guys, very good tippers. Yeah.
Any rock stars?
No.
Oh.
I wish.
Oh.
If only.
Man.
Yeah.
That sucks. Couple questions.
It does.
Yeah, couple questions. Now, going back to the Sunday crowd thing, Irish Connection asked, is that a generation thing, or the church crowd predominantly a certain age group that are worse? Or is it just across the board?
I would say pretty much across the board, but also I don't get a lot of younger people from the church crowd.
Ah.
It's mostly older folks, and they sometimes bring their families, but of course the families aren't paying, so they're not tipping. But I guess it's the older folks, if I'm thinking about it.
Hero asks, what about places that have you choose a percent when you pay? Like on the thing it'll show, 15, 20, 25 or custom. Mm-hmm. What's your normal that you see? Do you see the 20 more often?
Where I'm at currently, no. But previously, I do find that helps people. They usually tip in like the 18% range. But a lot of people tend to ignore that helpful note at the bottom of the receipt that tells people the percentages. So, it can be helpful. Yes.
Well, us in retail know they don't read receipts.
No.
They come to return something, and it could say in big black letters, bigger than every font on the front of the receipt, returns ineligible after X amount of days. Oh, I don't read my receipt. They tell you straight up they don't. So,
absolutely.
Blame Tag says, what's the worst tip? Assuming it's probably not a monetary thing. So obviously 0 would be the worst, but what's the worst you've gotten? Say you gave great service or whatnot and they were just douches about it.
Well, my favorite thing is when they wait till you come over to the table. This has happened to me several times. Wait until you come over to the table and they drop maybe a nickel or 2 pennies or something like that. And they look up at you with these big smiles on their faces like they've really done something to help you.
Wow, that's some douchey.
Yeah, and it's just like, man, it looks like you need this more than I do.
Damn.
You keep your pennies. Yeah.
That's awful. Now, obviously I've worked retail. I've never worked in a restaurant environment. I've never been a server. So can you tell us a little bit about, like, quote unquote tips of the trade that you learn, because obviously as a regular consumer, I guess the big thing we look at is like, are drinks getting filled or whatnot. So what are some things that you've learned, being in this wonderful business of servitude that you got to be on point with if you have any chance whatsoever of making like, a good tip.
Let's see. Pre-bussing the tables, taking dirty dishes out of the way seems to be a big one for people. Um, Obviously, you want to keep drinks filled. Not checking on people too often, I think, is important. Because especially in the big chain restaurants, people will be like, oh, you need to check on your tables every 5 minutes or something like that. People don't like that. People want to be left alone to eat their meal unless something happens. So I think not checking on people too often is important. And this is just a personal note, and I don't know if this has any value to anybody else, but if I wear a ponytail really high up on my head, I seem to get better tips.
Really?
Yes, which is really odd, but for some reason, that seems to do the trick.
That's weird as hell. I'm not gonna lie.
It is.
That's very weird.
Yeah. Oh, it's super weird. And I thought that too, and then I tested it a few times. Like if I wear a really high Ariana Grande ponytail, I make much better money than if it's a little lower on my head or if I wear a bun. I do not understand the correlation.
Well, there you go, folks, on the Retail Warzone life pro tips in the serving realm. Wear a high Ariana Grande ponytail, whether you're a male or a female, you're good. So, Hero asked, do you, quote unquote, unfortunately have a dine and dash story?
Like, not personally. I've seen it happen to other people, which is really unfortunate, but it's not happened to me personally. Although where I'm at currently, sometimes regulars walk out without paying because they'll be back, but it does not ease the feeling of, what if I never see them again?
Oh, wow. I mean, that's okay.
Yeah.
Regulars can just, like, what do they got, like a tab or some shit? Or they just, the owner knows they're good for it?
Some of them have a tab. Most of the time, the owner knows that they'll be good for it, and they just walk right out. And me and my coworkers all look at each other like, well, I guess we'll just let it go and hope they come back.
That doesn't sound like a really good business model.
It doesn't, but my boss is not a very good businessman.
Oh, well, there we go. Shots fired. Irish Connection asked, would you rather work for a better hourly rate or get tips like it is overseas?
Probably work for tips.
Yeah, I think that's, a big thing. We look at the tip thing and yeah, there's some situations in some areas where you're going to lose your ass. But I got to think that, like you said, some of these bigger chain restaurants, sure, you might get some people that tip really shitty, but probably your average, during the course of a shift or whatnot, it kind of balances out and you make some good coin.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I would say you definitely bring home more money with tips. And like you said, it varies from day to day, but there's always that unexpected element of somebody leaving you a really nice tip and possibly paying your phone bill or your power bill or something like that. So I would definitely say tips.
I would say that one of the great things about that is you have cash in hand every day, and that's not something that regular workers have. And I would say that would be an advantage if you're working somewhere where it's steady and you've got a good clientele. That, let's say you're short on cash and hold on a second. My cat is freaking out behind me. I don't know what this meowing shit's going on. She has just went nuts. But anyway, it just seems to me like, let's say you need to pay your phone bill or something, I would think if you figured out what your average tip rate is per day, it would probably help you in planning on how you pay your bills.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Like I know, for example, on Sunday, I always kind of make the same amount and I always put that aside for, again, my phone bill, my electric bill, something I know is going to be in the approximate area. And then I don't have to worry about it.
Right. So that is, I would say that's a huge advantage if you're in a good location. Are there places out there that you would recommend, like big chains that people do not go to work for, that they're kind of shady with how they do the tipping and whatnot?
Um, I haven't had any bad experience with tips. I can name some places that will inflict very odd punishments on you for strange things. Um, if I'm going to name names, I know Claim Jumper is pretty rough.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think if you don't collect a certain number of emails for their newsletter coupon nonsense, they will write you up. And this can happen frequently. Any of like the Brinker ones, the macaroni grilled chilies and stuff like that. I know they have kind of a similar system where you can get in trouble for weird things if you don't sell a certain number of appetizers in a shift and things like that. They will give you less hours. So they all have like weird reward punishment things like that. But I've never seen the only upside I would say to working at a really big corporate spot is I've never seen them jerk you around with the tips.
Well, that's good. Hybrid Hooligan asked, "Do they really take Dine and Dash checks from your pay?"
No,
Oh, there you go, Hybrid.
no. Yeah. When I've seen that happen, usually the manager will just comp it. And I did have a manager tell me once that it was actually illegal to take that out of your paycheck. So if somebody's doing that to you, they are breaking the law.
Ooh, that's good information that you got.
Hmm.
Oh, so you can carry that with you wherever you go. Irish Connection says, "What are some of the most ridiculous complaints customers have had?"
Oh, my favorite one was a place I was working at, and there was a calamari appetizer, and somebody complained that it tasted like fish.
I mean, it is
So,
squid. I mean, come on.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Or
Yeah. Or,
octopus, whatever it is. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. And I've worked at a sushi restaurant where they were like, well, there's raw fish in here. It's like,
No.
oh, yes.
Really?
Yeah. This is real life. Yeah. They're like, there's raw fish in here. And I'm like, do you know where you are, sir? In a polite way. But yeah, that's happened. Um,
That one blows my
Silly things
mind.
like, yeah, yeah, it used to, I mean, I used to just kind of have to give them the Dora blink, the blank stare, like, are you kidding? You know,
That's
what is
that's
this?
nuts. I mean, I do not eat sushi. My family does, and even I know
Mhm.
there's raw fish involved.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of people don't. And one of my favorite things, well, I guess I shouldn't use the term favorite, but one of the most surprising things is when people just devour what's ever on their plate and they're like, oh, was there almonds in this? Was there crab in this? I'm allergic.
Ah!
And then they go to complain, and you're like, but really? You didn't ask?
Oh, this is actually a conversation my wife and I had probably about a week ago, and this is something that I never thought of, but she brought up. She asked, "Can you explain why some restaurants think it's a good idea not to have pads to write the orders down?" She says, "I do not understand."
I don't either. I've never heard of that. Do you mean where they have like the digital thing you can order from, or they just want their servers to
They
remember?
want their servers to remember they have nothing. Like they're not writing it down. I mean, and uber props to any server out there that can memorize, you know, an order when they've got 50 to 100 people in a restaurant. But to me, it just seems like a disaster waiting to happen.
Oh, absolutely. And if you forget modifications or something like that, that really sounds like a wreck. I've never heard of that. Um, that almost strikes me as like a fine dining thing, but I've never worked in fine dining, so I'm not sure.
Oh,
But
trust
that is
trust
crazy
me,
to
this
me.
isn't fine dining. We ain't got that kind of money. so, so no.
Wow. Yeah, I've never heard of that. That's crazy
Oh,
to me.
okay. This is where it came from. Cheesecake Factory has a huge menu, and the servers have no anything to write it down at all. That's where she
Wow.
noticed it at. I remember now.
Wow. Yeah, they do have a mammoth menu.
Yes.
I don't know how a server would do that. That's wow. That almost sounds like they're trying to throw people under the bus on purpose or something. That's crazy.
Yeah, because the Cheesecake Factory is not fine dining, but that menu
Hmm.
is ridiculous. I mean, it's like everything that you can think of thrown into one menu, and let's confuse the fuck out of everybody, basically.
Yes, and it changes frequently, right? I mean, wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. There was another question. Let's see, where was it? I miss I missed it. No, there's not. Okay, so as far as complaints go, how many times have you had, people? I'm assuming, like, especially with steaks or whatnot, how much stuff do you get as far as, oh, it's not cooked right, but they've eaten like three-quarters of it?
Pretty often. This happens a lot. I I can't tell you how many times. I mean, people eat the whole thing and they're like, it just didn't taste fresh, or, well, this tastes like it was made yesterday or something. And I'm like, but you ate the whole thing, And I kind of joke about my boss being terrible, my current boss. But one thing I will say for him is he's like, well, I can't give you your money back if there's no food.
Right,
If you ate the whole thing, I'm not going to help you. But it happens a lot. People will just lick the plate clean and be like, "Well, I hated it."
wow,
And it strikes me as people really trying to scam and try to get free stuff. And you see that a lot. You see people and you can kind of almost smell it on them. They know if they complain, they'll get a free meal, and you can tell that they do this a lot, and that they are always trying to scam to get something.
right. Um, there was a comment followed by a question from Russell. He said, I used to be in food back in the day as a cook, and I had my favorite waitresses, and I usually would add a little extra for them to deepen their tips. And followed with the question, did you have cooks that would look after you more so than other waitresses?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that I would say happened a lot in the sushi restaurant that I worked in.
oh,
The chefs would really look out for you. They would hook you up. There was one woman who I mean, you could have the best night ever, or she could destroy you. And that went for both um, servers and customers. Like, if you were nice to her, she would be nice to you. Um, yeah, I remember she would hook us up really nicely with, extra stuff on the rolls and things like that. So you would get a better tip, and then she would get a better tip. Um, and yeah, that does happen a lot of places where you kind of bond with the chef, and they help you out
that's
for sure.
that's cool. Blame Tag asks, do you personally feel that people who expect you to sing happy birthday can F right off and keep effing off?
Okay, well, it's a little different for me, because I am a trained singer. I do have a degree in music.
Oh,
I did get hired at some places because I did not mind singing happy birthday, and it would come out nicely if I did.
time out. Time
Uh,
out. Okay, time out for just a second. Blame Tag, did you just hear that? So you're a singer.
mhm.
Blame Tag, write this down. We may need a singer here shortly. I don't know. There it is. Can you sing in the style of Elton John? If you haven't, did you hear our Christmas song?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I will send that to you after the stream is over. So,
Okay.
yes, uh, Blame Tag is extremely happy right now. Nobody can see him, but I'm telling you, he's extremely happy right now. But all right, so going back to the singing happy birthday, you're a singer and whatnot, so you don't mind.
Mhm. No, I don't mind, and usually I would make a little extra money out of it. So it didn't bother me, but and however, I absolutely understand the horror and the discomfort for those who can't, or the ones that have to do all the clapping and the big sing song production like that. That's got to be torture. So I understand that from other people. Oh yeah, yeah, yes, f off and keep effing off.
The,
But
I have like a rule. I tell my family, I'm like, don't you damn tell them to come do this shit. And they know I'll get mad because, it's all that happy birthday
hmm
bullshit. I'm like, oh, hell no. Please, no,
hmm
no. Even my children are terrified of that shit. They'll hear it and they're like, they just
yeah,
freeze up. So
yeah.
it's just like, really? Let's see. Thomas asked a question: how often do customers find hair in their food, and do you think they planted it?
Um, it happens every once in a while. A lot of times I've been able to catch it, especially if you're working with like older chefs or something, if they're losing their hair and stuff like that, you kind of learn to keep an eye out for it, which is not what any customer wants to hear, I know, but we are looking out for you guys. Um, I know there was one occasion when I was working at a big chain restaurant where, yes, someone planted a hair.
Oh my God! What's the worst thing that anybody's brought to your attention they found in their dish?
Uh, a bee.
Ooh, really?
Yes, yes. There was a yellow jacket
Ah.
swimming around in their soup.
So whose responsibility is it to make sure that doesn't happen? Like, is it the server's responsibility to kind of inspect before they go to the table, or was this one of these deals where on your way, the yellow jacket decided I'm taking a dive?
Oh no, I think it happened before I got there. Sometimes the chef we had previously, and this is where I currently work, would leave the door open, so things would just fly in. And there was a yellow jacket in the soup. I didn't see it. Um, I think the chef should have seen it because he was dealing with the food. As a server, I think you always just kind of want to take a quick peek at what you have for sure. I think that's just good practice. Um, but no, that was the chef's fault that time for sure.
Gotcha. Let's see what else we got here. Um, how close is the movie Waiting to reality? If you've seen,
You know what? I've not seen the whole thing. I think I saw a couple minutes of the end on cable TV once, but I wish I could tell you. I will watch it and I will let you know. I will DM you. How about that?
Sweet. All right. So there you go, hybrid. We'll get an answer. What else have we got here? Somebody referenced wait. Russell referenced waiting again. Hero asked, "Do you have cooks that get stuff wrong seemingly regularly?"
Um, yeah, they're out there, and I think they do it on purpose.
Oh, really? Why?
I think sometimes they do. Either they're mad at the server or they just don't like making the dish, or they're just annoyed that night. Yeah, I don't know too many chefs who just kind of did it on accident. Um, but I do know some who've kind of thrown a wrench in things on purpose.
Um,
I will say that.
have you ever had a choking incident that you had to deal with?
No, but I live in fear of that moment because I don't know CPR, I don't know the Heimlich, so these people are on their own if something should happen to them.
Oh wow, that's not like part of your training that you have to know how to do the Heimlich.
Uh no, no. I think there might be a rule where there has to be like one person on the premises who knows how to do the Heimlich, but I am not that person.
Wow, I would honestly think that that would be like something they would train people on. But then again,
Mhm.
training costs payroll, and you're not serving people, so yeah, I get that. I understand it. Um,
Yeah.
so have you witnessed any like all out brawls in a restaurant?
Yes.
Ooh, do tell.
M- More than once. Actually one happened a few weeks ago. And it was two men in their 80s who probably should have
Ah,
known better, but they started smacking the spit out of each other, and one of them fell over one of our chairs. So very exciting stuff. But yeah, I've seen a few fights actually.
wow. Anything that resulted in like terrible injury or just tomfoolery?
Uh, no terrible injuries. I did see a guy get a cut by his eye once, but it wasn't. It was just a superficial wound. But that's as far as it's
Oh,
gone.
I have to ask you. You work in this business. Have you witnessed anybody clock anybody over the head with a beer bottle?
No,
Oh
I have not.
man, that's unfortunate.
That would be exciting.
It
Yeah,
would be
that would be a
exciting as
great
long as you're not
story.
involved.
Yeah, as long as I'm a spectator far away from things, sure.
Wow. Hero says they don't have Ariana Grande ponytail Heimlich, the 300-pound all-you-can-eat guy. Good point. Good point.
Right. Yep.
Oh, have you ever worked anywhere that has a buffet?
Yes, I worked in a buffet.
Okay, so have you ever been, witness to them kicking somebody out because they've went too far on the buffet?
No, knock on wood. No, I never saw that because at a buffet, I mean, you expect people to eat until they're disgusted with themselves, as one of my coworkers said.
Well, I had a bunch of friends
So,
who took a buffet as a challenge.
yeah. Oh, people do. The buffet I worked at, I know they had like a crab legs night, and it was like an extra $10 or something like that, but you got all the king crab you could eat. And I mean, people would just abuse the hell out of that, but you expect them to, you know? So, no, I've never seen anybody get kicked out for going too far. I think what's more likely to happen is they just run out of food.
I've got like people in the chat. Thomas says me and my three older brothers have, and the hybrid hooligans like guilty. I mean, but they're good. You ask for it, you put it out there. It's like here's a buffet. I
Hmm.
know my ex brother-in-law. Anytime there's a buffet, he's like, okay, this is a challenge. Okay,
Yeah.
But for
Yeah.
me, I mean, I would eat until I probably got sick. Yeah, but it's crazy. Um, so have you seen a situation where? Oh, this would be a good one. Have you ever been working a shift and let's say there's a couple that's there on a date and like either a wife or an ex walks in and confronts. So let's say
Uh,
somebody's cheating on their spouse and they're at this restaurant and then the spouse shows up.
I've not seen that, but I have been party to similar incidents. And it's always really awkward as a server because you don't know if you're supposed to go in there and do something or if you're just supposed to let it play out. I remember once I walked in on a family who was announcing that the main couple was getting a divorce,
Huh.
and everybody started crying, and I had a armful of drinks. I'm like, oh, okay, well, what do I do?
Um,
Uh,
wow.
oh, sorry,
No, no,
continue.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
Oh, the other one I know, I walked in on serious ugly family drama. I remember once I was waiting on a middle-aged couple, seemed perfectly nice. They said, "My teenage daughter's going to come join us. Do you mind?" And I was like, "Oh no." And the daughter comes in with her boyfriend. They order some drinks. Once again, I'm on my way to the table with a whole tray full of drinks. The mother is reading the daughter for filth, and the daughter is like snot crying,
Ooh.
sobbing. Yeah. And I just kind of stood there with the drinks, like I can't go over there, right? And I looked to my manager and I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, I don't know. I've never seen anything like this. So definitely walked in on family drama. Have not had the ex confrontation yet. Although I can say I have seen regular customers who bring their side piece in,
Ooh.
but I haven't seen any confrontations
You
yet.
know that's a good point you brought up. So if they're a regular customer, and let's say you've seen a husband and wife come in together, and you're familiar with both of them and they're regular clients or whatnot. What goes through your head when you realize that somebody's bringing in their side piece?
Uh, well, usually you just kind of gossip with your coworker about it, but you stay out of grown folks' business for the most part.
Nice.
It's like, ooh, scandal, but yeah, I would never pass on the information or everything like that. It'll play out the way it's going to play out.
Right. Hero says, besides good tipping, what are habits you wish all customers would have?
Hmm. Uh, Ordering all the stuff they want to order at the same time would be nice. Not necessarily desserts or things, but a lot of times you'll come to the table and they're like, "Oh, I forgot I wanted a whole plate of pasta or something." And it's like, "Did you really forget?" Um, so yeah, knowing kind of what you want ahead of time would be nice. Let's see. Probably not berating the server for a clear mistake that the chef has made would be nice. Um, and just realizing how little control servers have over your food in general, I wish customers would know. Because so often they'll come after you for that, and you've got no control over what happens in the kitchen. Um, Other than that, oh yes, number one thing actually, now that we're talking about it, is don't ball up your snot rags and shove them in the bottom of your cups.
Ew. That's kind of
Just don't
gross.
do that. Yeah, I think people think that they're helping us by doing that, um, but I don't know why they think that.
Okay, this question is on the behalf of my youngest son. So we go to some restaurants and he has a real difficult time deciding what he wants to eat. And we try to explain to him that, when your server comes, they seat us, we get our menus. They may come and get our drink order, and then they come back and they're kind of expecting us to be able to order at that point in time. Can you explain to us why it's important that you should know?
Uh, I don't think it is.
Really?
I think you should. Yeah, I think you should take your time.
Oh God, if when he hears this, oh, we're doomed. We're doomed. Thanks. But if that's the way it is, that's the way it is, because we're like, he's looking at this menu and he's like, I don't know what I want. And all of there's four of us and three of us we're ready to go, and he's like, and then he gets all mad, and we try to make it like, well, they have a system, they've got to do blah blah. Well, I guess they don't. Okay, so he wins.
Oh, oops. Okay.
Yeah. Well, he wins. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I mean, it's okay. I've got no problem with that. Russell asked, have you ever caught the cook or manager in the cooler with a waitress or other employee?
No, but I found out about stuff that had happened later.
Oh.
I mean, yeah. I've found out later, like, oh, the manager was double dipping with the bartender. Oh, okay. But have I seen it personally? No, unfortunately, because that would make a great story.
I bet it would. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of scandal that goes on in a restaurant.
Oh, constantly.
Oh,
Yes.
oh. You ever had, like, let's say you've got one cook. You ever had the cook just quit and walk out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, what do you do then?
Yes. Um, well, you just do the best you can. I know that, and this is quite a story. Actually, I was at a restaurant that used a lot of wine in their dishes, and the cook drank an entire bottle of wine on shift. And so the managers pulled her into the office, presumably to fire her, and she wasn't having it, so she stormed out, hopped in her car, and drove off with a whole bottle of wine in her. The manager then had to hop in his car and chase her down so she didn't get in an accident, and we had nobody to cook.
Oh my God.
So basically we just had to kind of give a very G-rated explanation to our tables as to why the food was taking longer than usual. Fortunately, it happened at kind of a slow time, so I only had to give that speech to a couple people. But basically, you just say, it's just going to be a minute, and you're free to leave if you want. We understand, but here's the situation. Um, I don't know if you saw this, but we had to file a missing persons report for a chef
I
yesterday
saw that.
at my place of
I did.
employment. Yes. So, in which case, we just have one of the guys that's like, sometimes we get the original owner who's very retired come in and help us out. Um, but we have the luxury of doing that. We found her, by the way. She's fine. But yeah, sometimes that does happen, and you just kind of have to shoestring it together and do the best you can.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, what the hell? Like, wow, that
Yes, it's
escalated
quite a
quickly.
day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We Nobody had seen her for a couple days, and she's this really cute girl, and we're like, this is how episodes of Dateline start,
Oh, you're right.
So
Yeah,
yeah, but we found her. She's fine.
that's
She
good.
just wasn't feeling well. Yeah,
Good.
but
Be nice to let
yeah.
somebody know.
Yeah. Give us a phone call next time.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Irish Connection asks, what were casino customers like in comparison to normal customers?
You know, hit and miss. A lot of people have absolutely no patience because they assume working in such a big place, everything's going to move faster. You're going to have more people at hand. Um, a lot of them are extremely intoxicated by the time they get to you, which could be good or bad. They either don't care about anything or they're angry drunks and are waiting to ruin your night. Um, Sometimes you get people that, in the casino I was working at, there was a huge theater. So they'd be coming out after a show and they'd be like really happy and just excited that they just saw this great show. So it was a mixed bag for sure.
Um, so as far as alcohol sales go, what typically is the cutoff for you guys? Like where you realize, management's told you guys when they get to a certain point, you cut them off. And then what kind of bullshit have you had to put up with if you've had to be the person to deliver that message?
That one I always insisted a manager took over because I was not gonna absorb that blow. I'd always be like, "Listen, if this guy probably shouldn't be driving, I'm just gonna have you talk to him or one of the bartenders or something like that." Usually they get some kind of training. I mean, we all do if you serve alcohol, but it's always, I think, better for a manager or a bartender to handle that. And I just kind of stepped out of the situation.
You ever seen anybody get so? Well, let me preface this with the fact that I think it's cool that a lot of restaurants and bars and whatnot give all the warnings in the world that we're going to make sure you get home safe. We're going to make sure that you don't drive and things like that. Have you ever seen, even if you weren't involved, where somebody was just so smashed they were by themselves and they were called a cab or an Uber or something like that and they just completely flipped out?
Thankfully, no. I've never seen that happen. Usually people are pretty excited about the fact that you've arranged for them to have a cab or an Uber or something like that. I've never seen anybody fight it. I've seen people get upset that they can't drive when they've had friends with them, but I've never seen anybody by themselves in that situation.
That's really good to hear, to be honest.
Hmm.
Because would you say that's been the case even with like kind of angry drunks?
Yeah, I mean, even when they're pretty pissed off, they're also pretty cognizant that they can't go anywhere. Or maybe they're angry at the bar staff for not serving them more, so they want to get out of there anyway. Um, yeah, I've never seen anybody get really angry that a ride's been called for them or anything, thankfully.
In response to that, Hero asked, "Do you add the Uber ride to their tab, or is that something that you tell them they've got to pay for that?"
Ooh, I don't know. I've never been the one who had to handle the bill. I
Oh,
mean, yeah, I don't know. That's a very good question.
uh-oh.
I wish I had an answer. Yeah.
We'll get some follow up on that and find out how that works. She also asked, during COVID, did your job duties change in a way you liked or disliked?
Uh, well, it was really nice because we didn't have to serve anybody. Everything was to go where I'm currently at. And that was kind of nice because, you know, we do, again, we've got this bougie clientele that's very demanding and very snippy a lot of the times. And it was really nice that we did not have to put up with them for long periods of time. We could just pack everything up to go and tell them that they had to go. Um, that I really miss that. To be
I bet.
honest, because we're serving again, you know, and we've got lots of tables, and people will just sit there and make life difficult for you for several hours. So I do miss just doing everything to go. I will say that.
Now, when that went down, did whoever you worked for try to do something to compensate you for missed tips, or were you still getting tips from just the carryout?
People were tipping from carryout. I actually got furloughed for a chunk of 2020, just because we weren't that busy and we only needed to have like one person on staff at a time. So I did get furloughed for a few months. I know that for a while the tips were actually quite good for people just doing takeout because they knew that it was hard on us and they were leaving really nice tips. Unfortunately, that period of time has ended and they no longer feel bad for us,
Well, we
but the
we
tips were
were
pretty good.
essential for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, think about all the people who cannot cook that during the
Hmm.
pandemic they were getting like takeout and stuff like that, and you really performed like a life saving activity.
For a lot of people, yes. And another thing about our clientele is most of them are older people that do come in because they don't cook anymore, or they're just retired and living by themselves, and it's easier for them to just come and get a sandwich or a cup of soup from us. So and you know, it was scary for them being so vulnerable. So we did really well um in providing for a lot of our more elderly clientele, and that was kind of rewarding, honestly, to do that.
Okay, so from an inside perspective, a hero asks, when we see a restaurant with plenty of empty tables but a long wait, is it because there aren't enough wait staff or to give the kitchen the ability to keep up?
It could be either or both, depending on the situation. Right now, I think probably everybody's really short staffed. So right now it's because we don't have wait staff, but I've definitely been in situations in restaurants where we had to stop seating people because the kitchen was crashing, for sure.
Gotcha. Irish Connection asks, any supply chain problems during the pandemic or now?
During the pandemic, we surprisingly had no trouble. Right now, yes, we are having some issues, and it sucks because it's a bakery and we are having trouble getting butter sometimes, or certain kinds of flour. So yeah, we are running into that now.
I would think so. I mean, especially when you look at things made with grain, because with everything that's
Mhm.
going on in the world, and Russia and Ukraine being the main exporters of grain, yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it really does. Um, I just want to ask, what do you think about the restaurants that basically operate on just sex appeal? I mean, you've got Twin Peaks, you've got Hooters and whatnot. I find it, to be honest with you, kind of disgusting.
Hmm. Um, it depends. I mean, if everybody involved is cool with it and kind of knows the score, I don't mind. I don't go to those places because of that. You know, it's not really my thing, but uh I don't begrudge anybody working at a place like that or going to a place like that, enjoying it, I guess. But I think, like I said, everybody's got to kind of know the score
But but
going into it.
but wouldn't you look at it like, I mean, it's kind of like exploitation in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it can be for sure.
I would think so, because whoever came up with that business model, obviously, that business model was made for exploitation of people.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
sure, I bet the tips are great and all that whatnot, but just the principle behind it just kind of creeps me out, to be perfectly honest with you.
Oh, the principle behind it, yes, it's a little, yeah, it's gross for
Um,
sure.
let's see. What seems like short staff to a restaurant staff does not appear that way to the public, and people like to say things like there are plenty of tables open when they have no idea what seating all those tables would do to a restaurant staff. Correct. I
Yeah,
agree with that.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Well, and honestly, those are people that have never had a job like that, you know. And that's kind of what you have to understand is that these people probably have had office jobs their entire life. They have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, nor do they care. And that's where the trouble
and
happens.
they don't understand that the longer wait times and the empty tables guarantees that their experience is actually going to be better than if you just sat everybody at every empty table and everybody's raising hell because they didn't get their food.
Exactly. Exactly right.
And and that's kind of terrible. I mean, where all this kind of came from, and this was my assumption was, we went to Texas Roadhouse, and it was an hour wait. We had nowhere to be, sat in our car or whatnot, and I got to see. The old man who complained that the wait was so long and his wife was diabetic and, she needed to eat and all this other stuff. And we go in and, we finally get seated and obviously there's a lot of empty tables. And, it's like I said, obviously it is probably a staffing issue. And, you gotta pick your poison. If you're running one of these businesses, you gotta pick what it is you want to do. Do you want to just flood the building full and get tons of complaints and tons of meals you have to wind up comping, or do you want to try to soften the blow? Yeah, you're going to have some people that are going to be pissed off about the wait and they're going to leave and whatnot, but the overall experience is good once they get in and get seated.
Right. Yeah, it kind of depends. It really depends on the restaurant, the manager. Generally, I mean, people are going to complain no matter what, like you said. We love customers like you who understand that, this is going to be a problem, but, you know, you'll have a better experience at the end of it. Um, it's, it, it's just difficult to manage because a lot of times, yeah, managers do flood the place and then regret that. And then other times they'll, hold off seating for a while trying to get everybody in, but then they're, deluged with comments on, Google review and stuff like that saying that they're the worst person on planet Earth. There's no winning in that situation when people are going to be upset no matter what.
Yeah, and if you go to an establishment that the food's going to be good, and you're going to leave there wishing they had somebody to push you out in a wheelbarrow, you should be okay with the wait. And I've changed a lot during the years. I used to be one of these people that would be like, no, I'm not waiting. And I guess everybody has the option. If the wait's too long, I mean, if you don't want to wait, that's fine. All right, but you can't be pissed off at anybody because of it, because I mean it just is the nature of the business and what it is right now. But places that we go to that we love the food, the wait's worth it. And you know just seeing people just lose their minds over shit, they don't even know what's going on, they don't know how the business runs and whatnot. It's like, come on, man, chill the fuck out. Which brings me to, as a server, what do you guys think about like these groups of people that come in and they get their meal in a timely manner or whatnot, and they just decide to sit at the table for like an hour?
Oh, campers. Uh,
Oh, that's what they're called,
I,
campers.
campers. Yeah, yeah. It's so annoying because tables are real estate, and real estate is valuable. And if they're not tipping to cover the extra time that they're there, that really sucks. Um, it's not always as bad when, say, it's a slow day and maybe you wouldn't have sat that table anyway. But when it's busy, like I said, real estate is very valuable. If the turnover is really slow, you're making less money, and that's the worst. So I like to see people wrap it up and go somewhere else.
I would imagine
To
like
it.
Sundays, like here in the South, that's probably the worst. You know,
Oh, absolutely.
because that's
Yeah.
what happened. With us going to Texas Roadhouse. when I was in there, I heard one of the hosts talking about, they had people that had been sitting at the table for like an hour and a half. In a
Mhm.
restaurant, I mean, it's a business. There's production, and when people aren't going in and out, with a proper cadence, like you said, they're costing everybody at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the worst. And especially if you stay and you're close to close, oh, that is so disrespectful.
Oh yeah.
Because
Now let me
the
let me
worst.
ask you about that. So, what would you say is appropriate? Because there have been times where we might have thought about going somewhere, and I'll look at it. I'm like, oh no, they close in 30 minutes, man. That's not cool. We're not going. You know, as a server and restaurant staff, if you could talk to people and say, hey, look, when do you need to consider not coming in?
I would say half an hour to 45 minutes, because you have to account for the time it takes to seat you, get the drinks, you need to look at the menu, the time to cook your food, and then it's going to take us a while to clean up. So I would say 45 to half an hour, depending on where you're going. If you're going to some place like Olive Garden, I've never worked there, but it's just an example, you know, there's a lot of cleanup involved. There's, a lot of cheese and sauce and things like that. If you're going somewhere and just grabbing a sandwich, I'd say 30 minutes. If you're going to somewhere a little more involved, I'd say 45.
Good advice, folks. Good advice. Because, they may even love their job, but they want to go home on time too. you know.
Yes.
Hero says in retail, we are hearing a lot of complaints about the prices of things. Does that happen in your job as well?
Absolutely. We've had to raise our prices kind of significantly lately. And it really sucks because from a business standpoint, we're still not covering the cost. The cost has gone up for our wholesale stuff and all the supplies we need, and we're still not covering that with the price hike. But people don't understand that, and they're like, oh my god, this was $9 a couple weeks ago and now it's 11.50. What's wrong with you? And we're like, we have to account for inflation. We have to do this. So yeah, we get a ton of complaints, but there's just not a lot you can do, and hopefully this is just something that passes quickly. But yeah, it's been ugly.
But here's the thing: good food's worth fucking paying for. You know,
That's the truth.
we when we went Sunday, I noticed that some of the menu items have went up $1. That dollar is worth it to me. Because the
Yeah.
food is good. And
Right.
you have to look at it also like, okay, well, yeah, that extra dollar may go to make sure their employees get paid, or they're not cutting hours or things like that. We're not talking like, if I'd have walked in and been like, well, holy shit, the 9.99 roadkill went up to like 16.99, that might be a little bit different. But if it went up $1, okay, cool, I'll eat the four
Hmm.
quarters, let's go. you know but let's see. Irish asked, does it annoy staff when customers take photos of food and then themselves instead of just eating?
uh for me, I would say it's more comical than annoying. It's just kind of funny because they got to get that picture for the gram, and then they move on. But I find it more amusing than annoying. The only time it's annoying is when they're like, get out of the shot, or
Wow.
you're just trying to do your job. That's rough, but that's the only time I get kind of irritated by it.
Are you familiar with the Applebee's scandal with the corporate guy who put out the email about with inflation and gas prices going up, it was an excuse to pay people less? Have you seen that?
No,
Oh,
that's
okay.
terrible.
So check that out. Hybrid asked what your opinion was on that, and I just want to make sure if you saw it or not. So, but yeah, I think if you go to Twitter and just type in Applebee's, that's what you're going to see. Um, it is what it is. But I have to tell you, this has been fantastic. I am so glad that you were able to work out being on here tonight. Um, you know, you've got a great attitude, and obviously you're very knowledgeable with the business. And we would love to have you back on again in the future if you are willing.
Well, thank you for having me. Yes, I would love to.
Um, Next week, we're going to have the drunken server on, so that ought to be good.
Yay.
What would be really, really cool is, we do these offshoot things, the retail therapy sessions where it's kind of like a private chat and we just kind of talk. It'd be really cool to get like 3, 4, 5 servers on and just kind of let you guys just kind of chop it up. And you're not on camera, it's not live. I can go back and edit any kind of fuck ups or whatnot. That would be really, really cool, to have something like a living document of having people that work in the industry talking about all the bullshit they put up with, good or bad, So, I mean, we do tend to get focused on the negative, but there are some good things that happen. Like you said, you get $100 tip. That's effing great. That's a good day. So, I really appreciate you being here, and thank you, for being clutch, coming in and be like, hey, I can do the 6th. I didn't have anybody scheduled. And I'm like, let's go. But this has been great. The feedback's been great. So having said that, do you have any final words you would like to say, ma'am?
Just remind people not to ball up their snot rags and stick them in the dishes.
There we go. There's your takeaway. Do not ball up your snot rags and put them in the dishes. So hey, at least you're working in. Oh, let me ask real quick. In the casinos, were they allowed to smoke?
No. There's a certain distance away from the restaurants where you have to put your cigarettes out.
So no cigarettes.
Yes.
Oh, and Blame Tag says, don't forget about the Elton John thing. So yeah, we need to get in.
Oh yeah.
We need to get in touch with you about the singing thing.
Sure.
Blame Tag, while we're here, go ahead and send her the link to Don't Be a Karen this year. If you missed that for Christmas, you're gonna be upset because I knew somebody. Blame Tag rewrote All I Want for Christmas Is You to Don't Be a Karen this year. You'll love it. So.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, yes.
I can't wait.
It'll be your favorite Christmas song from here on out. So
I bet it will.
Yes. So everybody, thank you so much for being here. Next week, we will have another server on. The week after that, as long as everything goes okay, we're going to have Pete Whelan, who is a employment lawyer. And then the last week of April, we're going to have Marissa Baker here talking about an actual study they did with COVID protections for grocery employees. And it's very enlightening. So a lot of cool stuff coming. Also, Seething Server, I extend the invite to you anytime you see me post that we're doing a retail therapy session or whatnot. Like I said, it's a private thing, and I'll just chop it up and put it up as audio. You're more than welcome to join anytime you're available.
Well, thank you very much. I would love to do that.
I would love to have you. So everybody have a great night, and we will see you next